Just a couple of days ago, I made a video claiming that the iPhone 14 Pro would finally get under-display Face ID with a brand new pill-shaped cutout instead of the notch, which is a design we've been seeing float around all over the internet. And as you can see in that video's thumbnail, I showed how the system would work with the ambient light sensor under the display like it already is on the iPhone 13 Pro, but with the selfie camera, the proximity sensor, and the infrared camera within the pill-shaped cutout for maximum clarity. And then the dot projector and flood illuminator would be going under the display. And the way Apple would do that is by placing them within this extra hole on the side, which is a design that was originally leaked by Shrimp Apple Pro on Twitter way back in the summer of last year. But the theory was that the extra hole on the side would not be visible at all, leaving us with this awesome looking pill-shaped cutout like you see in these custom renders that Shailesh on Twitter made for me. But unfortunately, it looks like I was actually wrong, and we're not getting under-display Face ID at all on the iPhone 14 Pro. So before you go down to the comment section and destroy me, give me a chance to explain what happened and what the actual design is more likely to look like. Now, the reason I was so sure about under-display Face ID coming to the 14 Pro is because of an analyst named Ross Young, who has 25 years of experience in the display industry, and he's actually the CEO of Display Supply Chain Consultants, so he's basically one of the most qualified people in the display world. And that actually shows because he currently has a 100% accuracy rating for Apple leaks, like when he perfectly predicted the display size and design of the iPad Mini 6. Or the fact that he was the only one back in October who claimed that the MacBook Pros would have both mini LED and 120Hz ProMotion refresh rate displays. And of course, he was right again. And that finally brings us to the situation with the under-display Face ID on the iPhone 14 Pro models. When way back last year, he showed us this chart of the 2022 iPhone 14 lineup, which included the 14 Pro and Pro Max models with under-display Face ID, which is what my entire video I made a couple of days ago was based on. But now he just came out with a bombshell leak that completely flips the script on what he was previously saying, with his firm now believing that the 14 Pro models will have both a pill-shaped cutout and the extra circular cutout at the same time, with both of them being fully visible. And if you're wondering why that extra hole has to be visible, it's likely because Apple's tech isn't quite ready to be put under the display just yet. More specifically, the infrared camera needs to be unobstructed since it's scanning the IR dots and light from both the dot projector and flood illuminator. And Ray Wong on Twitter mentioned an interesting point that those two models can't be put under the display because of pixelation, since they're going to be shining through display pixels. And I guess I was wrong in thinking that it wouldn't matter. And even Ross Young himself said that throwing the dot projector under the display would be too risky, so it's unlikely that Apple would be the first company to introduce under-display infrared technology. So because of all of that, it seems like Apple is going to have all of the Face ID sensors, including the selfie camera, completely unobstructed, and that's why we need both of those hole punch cutouts. Now, getting back to the actual design, we've already seen quite a few updated renders online showing what it could potentially look like. And if you're wondering why all of them are showing the extra circular hole punch on the right side instead of the left, that's because way back in September, Shrimp Apple Pro mentioned that the display panel he leaked was actually a photo taken of the backside. So if you flip it to the front, the extra hole would be on the right. And that's why everyone's renders have it on the right side. But in my personal opinion, I think that the leaked photo was actually of the front of the display panel, because to me, it makes much more sense for the extra hole on the side to be used for the selfie camera, while all of the Face ID sensors will be within the pill-shaped cutout in the center. And even though Ross Young believes the hole on the side is for the dot projector, I would have to disagree at this point in time, so let me explain my point of view. With the iPhone 13's smaller notch redesign, Apple made a very unusual move, which at the time didn't really make sense. For apparently no reason at all, they decided to move the selfie camera from the right side of the notch over to the left side for the first time in the notch's history. And this was a really weird change because Apple gave no reason for this, and I personally had to start reminding myself of the new camera location on the left side when taking selfies to be sure that I'm looking directly into the camera and not off to the side. But now that Ross Young has confirmed that the extra circular hole punch is actually going to be visible, all of the puzzle pieces in my brain have finally come together and it now makes total sense. If you take that display panel leak and line it up with the iPhone 13 Pro's notch, the selfie camera on the 13 almost perfectly lines up with the extra hole on the leaked iPhone 14 Pro display panel. So now, Apple moving the selfie camera to the left side finally makes sense. Now, of course, I could be totally wrong about this, but I actually have two very good reasons for the selfie cam being on the left instead of within the pill-shaped cutout on the right. First of all, this would absolutely be the path of least resistance for Apple, since the selfie cam is already on the left side on the iPhone 13. So all they would essentially have to do on the 14 Pro is toss in the new panel with the hole punch cutouts like we saw in Shrimp Apple Pro's leaks, and then take the same exact glass panels from the iPhone 13 lineup and remove the black paint from the notch area and simply leave a little bit of black paint around the hole punch cutouts, and bam, they're done. Path of least resistance. And as for the second reason, I want to bring you guys back to a tweet showing off the updated double hole punch design. One of the features many believe Apple might add back in is the battery percentage indicator on the top right of the display. And I believe that's actually much more likely to happen if the extra hole punch is on the left side instead. Because if you really think about it, the only thing on the left side is the time and potentially a location icon, while the right side has the cellular data, the Wi-Fi signal, and the battery icon. And the only way they'd have room for the battery percentage is if the extra hole punch actually goes on the left. So because of all of that, I had Renders by Shailesh update the previous render to add in the extra hole on the left side, and in my opinion, this looks pretty great. And by the way, if you haven't already followed him on Twitter, go ahead and do that to thank him for his awesome renders. And now, with that said, there is one more option that some people on Twitter are currently discussing. Max Weinbach mentioned that Apple could disable the display portion between the two cutouts to make it a long pill-shaped cutout instead of having dual cutouts. But the problem I have with this is that it would then make it completely uncentered and it would look kind of weird, and I don't think that Apple would do this. But of course, they could simply slide the whole thing over to the side to make it perfectly symmetrical and centered, but then that would mean that the display panel leak from Shrimp Apple Pro would have to get tossed out completely, since only the pill-shaped cutout is perfectly centered in his leak. So in my opinion, I think that Apple will go with this design with two cutouts, with the extra circular cutout on the left side to allow enough room on the right for the battery percentage. And the reason I think Apple would go with this design is because it's completely unique and you will never mistake the iPhone 14 Pro for any other Android smartphone, which is something that's very important to Apple, as we've seen in the past with the recent MacBook Pro notch design and of course the legendary chin on the iMac. So with that said, if you think I'm completely wrong about all of this, then let me know down in the comment section below. But if you agree with me, then click the circle above to subscribe for more videos like this one, and definitely check out one of those two right over there. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.